Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more Horus Heresy Legions. And once again, we're back here with the tournament results together with Shad. Shad, say hi.
Hello there. I am back again.
And we are happy to have you back as always. So, gentlemen, as you remember, we already had the third tournament, which was the Void War, which was about the capital ships, spaceships, basically. This included, not capital ships, sorry, spaceships, which included, all the stuff, things like capital ships and frigates and things like that, all the way to, stuff like, what was it called again? Storm Ravens, right? Is it called Storm Ravens?
Fighters and,
fighters and stuff like Thunderhawks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gunships, yeah, basically. So, essentially anything you can classify as a spaceship, right? So, yeah. And honestly speaking, this was a very good, I think this was a very, very interesting tournament because this time we made tactics. So obviously it's a different flavor compared to the last tournaments where mostly the theme was like warlords and legendary cards and like troops and stuff like that. So I'm excited to actually go through all of these cards because even though I've seen most of them when they send it to me, I haven't read through all of them. Specifically, so it will be very fun to see and decide the winner of this tournament. And Chad, as always, you and I have our own cards to present before the thing starts.
Yeah, I had a real trouble coming up with one for this actually, which is weird because it's such an interesting concept in my opinion. Yeah. I eventually figured one out.
Yeah, you did, and it's a pretty interesting card as well. Like for me, it was easy because I've been rereading the Flight of the Eisenstein, so one card instantly came into my mind. So.
I have a shameful confession to make. I actually don't read that many Horus Heresy novels. I've read 6, I think, total. I get most of it through osmosis and just general lore. I know, it's terrible.
There's a lot of books, so it's really hard to go through all of them, I haven't read all of them myself. I'm trying to get through all of the leftover books that I have currently. So yeah. Anyway, so would you like to present your card first?
Well, yours is first alphabetically this time, so...
Fair enough. Okay, gentlemen, then I will begin with my own card, which is the Terminus Est, flagship of Typhus, Death Guard. So honestly speaking, before I even discuss the card, I gotta say I love how this the ship is presented for the first time in the Heresy novels. It gives you the idea of this destructive hulk of a ship, it's a unit. You could say it's presented as if it's utterly indestructible the first time it appears, right? So you got this scene where the Eisenstein is just trying to escape it. Obviously, it's not a fair match because one's basically a capital ship while the other is a frigate, so obviously that's what makes it so intimidating at first. But in general, I really enjoyed that part of the novel. So basically, this is a 10 energy card that I made. It's deal 8 damage to the enemy warlord like the Vengeful Spirit, but it turns all infantry and Astartes into Plague Marines, so on both sides. So basically, it's like a nuke for the Death Guard, while also generating a lot of Plague Marines. And the idea behind this is that thematically it kind of goes there, because as we know, Typhus is pretty much the one who doomed the Death Guard into being the servants of Nurgle. And on top of that, Terminus Est is a very iconic ship for the Death Guard. However, I do have the art from the old Terminus Est before it turned into a Nurgle abomination, basically. So what do you think about this, Shad?
Honestly, I love it. It's great flavor. The mechanics and all that, just absolute chef's kiss. The only problem I have is some balance issues. I just think it's a bit weak is the thing. But mechanically, awesome. Yeah. I mean, I would probably nerf it down to 7 damage because I like the holy numbers and Nurgle. And I would then put the costs down as well because, it's... the effect of transforming all the infantry in Astartes is technically... That's a symmetrical effect, so you don't theoretically benefit from that any more than your opponent does necessarily. So it's value neutral, which means you're left with a 10 damage 10 energy 8 damage burn, which is all right. I mean, burn's always good, but maybe you could tweak it a little bit stronger. Would be my thought.
Yeah, perhaps it needs a small change, absolutely, because in general, when we are talking about these types of effects that remove the troops. If it just leaves the troops on the board, it's always more effective to have it low cost and less value because it usually becomes playable, basically.
Exactly, yeah. But no, I do love it. Oh, I think it should be the wording should be transform as well, shouldn't it, instead of turn? But that's like minor quibble. So yeah, I really like it, man. Best card you made so far.
Absolutely, I agree. This is definitely the best one out of the three that I made for now. And speaking of which, you actually made a common. So care to present it?
Sure thing. I made Topaz Station, the astropathic relay, and obviously these are important devices throughout lore. They're space stations crewed by astropaths and defended as well, reasonably, but they're essentially relays to send your emails across the galaxy because that's very important in 40k. Mechanically, it is a 0 energy common in the Imperial Army, so a neutral, put it wherever you want, and it has a very simple singular effect. Just reveal your opponent's current hand, so only the cards that they all have in their hand at the moment. It's not a permanent effect. Your opponent's hand is not revealed forever. So the idea with this, obviously, was it's very cheap, it's very tactical. You play it when you really need to know what your opponent's got in hand and how to play around it, but it's terrible value. I mean, it does literally nothing. It's entirely soft benefit unless you have some synergy like with tactic cards, which there's not very many of those in the game at the moment. Yeah, what do you think, Teach?
I think it's a pretty interesting one, for sure. Because, as you said, like, it can give you a tactical benefit of knowing the opponent's hand, which is always really nice. But yeah, you're right in the sense that it's terrible value, because if you have this in your hand just at the start of the game, it's just dead card, because you're probably not going to use it until you really need it. Maybe if it could also perhaps, let's say, draw a card or like remove stealth from a random enemy unit, but in that case it might be a little bit too much, because
I did consider that. You're right, absolutely. But like, that's the thing, I like the fact that it's such a like difficult inclusion, and doesn't, you're not sure whether you want to even use it or not, because it's like, it's a great upside, but the value's horrible, so you've got to put it in the right deck. Yeah. If it was just one E-cycle, it would be like within everything else, like Void Engagement and Arvis Lighter and all that.
Yeah, maybe you could put this in a deck where you have those Zinchian demons, or when you have Prometheus and stuff like this. The things that just, or maybe Ruviel Arvidas, like stuff that basically benefits from cheap tactics could definitely, this could find a place there. Maybe one copy and not two copies, but it's definitely an interesting card. It's like not something too crazy, nothing too much. It's just a simple, nice tactical benefit, and I really enjoy cards like that, to be honest, because it's interesting, first of all. All right, so how shall we do this? Shall we go like you, me, like that?
Makes sense. We could split it in traitor and loyalist if you prefer.
I mean, we could definitely do that, but I don't think it's balanced.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
I guess I'll go first, and you can go second.
Sure.
Basically, let's begin, gentlemen. So these are already going to be the cards sent by the players, and we're going to get into the heated discussion now. So number one is the Shadowbirds for the Raven Guards. 3 energy, tactic, obviously. Elite Raven Guard pilots. Deal 1 damage to a random enemy 3 times. So it's essentially 3 energy. It's like the thing that the Emperor's children have. And now this one, instead of the heal that the Emperor's children have, what we get here is streak, return this card to your hand, to your deck. Sorry. So essentially, you use this card, you use this tactic to just deal that damage. It's going to be a good little combination with sentencing, obviously. It has the thing there, but it also goes back into your deck, so you can essentially reuse it over and over and over again. I like that the author didn't add a card draw to this, because it would be too strong in that case. So I'm glad that he kept it there. It's a rare card, and honestly speaking, yeah, it's like it's good that it also incorporates streak into the Raven Guard. It also kind of makes sense because these fast striking pilots and so on. And yeah, it's obviously a good combination with the sentencing mechanic that the Raven Guard have. Maybe if you play the Raven Guard with the mission, or maybe if you play someone like Arendi, for example, this could be a really good card, someone that has inbuilt sentencing. So yeah, pretty interesting card overall. Shad, what do you think?
Yeah, it's fine. So this is basically the same card. This card already exists in the Legacy section of Raven Guard. It's Fury from Above. It's almost identical. The only thing that's different is that this has the streak, and that's fine. It wasn't a card that really saw much play besides, in heavy sentence decks back when the quest was everywhere. Oh, sorry, the mission. It's fine. There's a few formatting issues here and there as well. So Shadowbirds, for example, the title on the left is always also in the right somewhere. So it could have been Shadowbirds Elite Raven Guard Pilots or something like that, although that might have been a bit wordy. Other few wordings, return instead of return, but all minor. Overall, it's fine. It would be balanced. It might even be a little weak. Maybe the card draw on the streak would have actually been a good idea. But yeah, not very much to add. It's a card that already exists.
All right, so this was from Spiritual Liege, so thank you very much for sending this. He actually sent it yesterday, and I was actually happy to see the last-minute submissions as well, because, I'm usually happy to see people even doing it after 2 weeks, which is pretty cool. So, Shad, the next one?
All right, let's see. So we have... I can't see that. Oh, yeah. I don't know who submitted these. You're in charge of that.
Yeah, don't worry.
We have the Bucephelus. A chunky 10 energy Custodes tactic. It's also called the Last Flight of the Bucephalus on the right there. So again, the same formatting thing. It should be Bucephalus and then a comma and something, but it's fine. That's less, it still at least has it Bucephalus in the name. And it reads, enemy tactics and troops cost 2 more next turn. Bring into play 2 Dark Angels Oathsworn Terminators. And I assume you'll be able to put a copy of that image up as well, Teach. But an Oathsworn Terminator is a 6 energy 4/6 with frontline and first strike from the Dark Angels faction. So there's a few formatting issues here. It's bring into play when it should be put into play. Oathsworn should also be put in quotation marks. That's how EG format things usually. Otherwise, mostly fine. It just doesn't really. I don't see the flavor that heavily. I mean, I get some of it. Bucephalus was the Emperor's flagship, and the Dark Angels were the first legion that he used. But it just feels like a card that should be in the Dark Angels faction, not the. It's so long ago in the history. It's a very strange cross-faction synergy, really. Like, when the Sisters of Silence pop up in Custodes cards or vice versa, that makes sense because they work together really closely all the time. But this, less so. But yeah, it's balance-wise probably fine. It's pretty chunky frontliners, which is nice, and it messes around with your opponent's turn.
Okay, so honestly speaking, this is funny enough. This is not the only Bucephalus I believe we have, and we're gonna see the other one as well. So I'm actually happy to see that it's kind of a popular thingy. So it's 10 energy, increasing tactics cost and troop cost, and brings them to play to Terminators, which basically have front line as well. So it's kind of a defensive card per se. It's meant to delay the enemy's next turn. Honestly speaking, it's like one beef that I would have with the card is exactly the same thing that you had with mine. I would prefer if this was cheaper, and while being cheaper, for example, deploy like 1 Terminator instead of 2, but maybe comes into the game earlier, because usually playing this type of a thing later on in the game is a little bit bad, because it's in most cases it's like not worth it, because it's too late. However, overall, I do still like it. I think it's pretty interesting in a sense that it incorporates other faction units into the Custodes. I think, Chad, I think the last tournament really affected people, because right now we are seeing that both of the first 2 cards actually have incorporated abilities from other factions, which first being Streaks from White cards into Raven Guard, and the second one being Dark Angel cards into Custodes. That's a pretty cool thing, at least.
Well, that is true, and they are linked as well thematically, so they are good inclusions in theory. Yeah, no, I like the Streak in Raven Guard. That makes a lot of sense, and even Dark Angels and Custodes. I'm being hard on it, but there is a link there flavor wise. I do get it. Oh, one other slight flavor quibble. It's the last flight of a legendary warship. So you'll never see it again, is the flavor of the mechanic. But it's epic, and you can put 2 copies in your deck. So, yeah, that doesn't add up. Sorry, man.
Yeah, it definitely should be, I think, a legendary. In that sense, I think it certainly should be a legendary. Yeah. All right. So moving on, the next one is actually from Liskian, I believe. Liskian is the name, or Roger DeLacy, as I usually refer to him. This is the guy who actually sent me the whole Thousand Suns Codex, and no surprise that he actually sent me a battleship from his own, with his own mechanics, basically. So before we get into the ship, he made two new mechanics, which is Ignite, which is give an enemy X soul burn stacks when attacking, being attacked, or with cleave. And soul burn is at the start of its turn, this unit receives X damage, remove the stacks after. So it's like poison, essentially, with the added benefit, not the added benefit, but the nerf that it instantly gets removed as soon as the damage is done. So it's like a soft poison. So the card itself is the Waning Moon, the strike cruiser of Fleet Captain Motep, 7 energy legendary. Every friendly unit with Psyker gives a random enemy equal soul burn. So equal to their Psyker, as I'm understanding. And for every unit dying through soul burn in the enemy's next turn, give a random friendly Astari's Ignite 1. So essentially you're casting this and the enemies get the poison, let's call it poison for now, which we know that is going to trigger at the start of their turn. So since it's going to trigger at the start, by the way, Shad, I have a funny question. Does poison trigger at the start of the enemy's turn?
Yes, it's a relentless effect, essentially.
It's very funny that I'm asking this considering how much Mortarion I play, but anyway, yeah. So at the start of the turn, some of the units are going to die. If not, the Warlord is going to take a ton of damage, and your units are also going to get Ignite. So this is kind of pushing the Thousand Suns toward playing a lot of Psyker units. Like, not only, for example, the typical things that you see, like, for example, Meketra Cabal and Ahriman's Cabal and Hidden Ones and so on. This might actually give you reason to play a lot of smaller units and just cast this so that you can deal a very high value damage with this card. So it kind of does push towards a different style of play. I think like Fozist Kar would be somebody who would use this a lot, or Ahriman, if they were to go for more troop based. I think Fozist Kar would be the one because he also starts with an extra card, as I remember. Overall, I do like it. It's pretty good. It does have some small issues with description, but I think it's still clear what it's supposed to do. Art is pretty nice as well. So what do you think, Shad?
I think the art's from Battlefleet Gothic, actually. That's where I stole mine from as well. I just stuck mine to a filter, so it's not as obvious. But yeah, its Waning Moon looks good. I love that color scheme. Honestly, I think it's really weak, which is fair enough. It's a new mechanic. You're trying to be conservative with it and not make something horribly broken. But I mean, if you compare it to the Imperial Fist's Bastion card, Stone Gauntlet, for example, you need to have a board. It has to all have Psyker. Maximum you're getting out of most of them is going to be like 1 to 3 damage because Psyker stats don't really go above that without some significant shenanigans. And then the Ignite thing is cool, but also is very rarely going to matter because your opponent gets a whole turn to react to those units that now have Ignite. This should be down to like, I don't know, 4 energy maybe? It's interesting mechanics, though. I like the idea of Soulburn. I had a similar idea as a mechanic for something like the Salamanders with like more literal fire, but it's the same flavor, just mind fire, not Promethean fire. Yeah, I like what you can do with Soulburn and Ignite. The mechanics are really good. It's just the way this card doesn't use them in the most interesting ways. But I would love to see sort of a mini expansion built around Ignite and Soulburn. Honestly, cool mechanics for Thousand Suns. Yeah, not got much else to say really. It's pretty good. It's interesting.
Yeah, Shad, before we move on, I actually forgot to say one thing about the Bucephelus. So Bucephelus, which was actually forgot to mention, sent by Constantine Baldor. So probably you guys know, the big Custodes player. There's one thing that I actually would say in defense of that card, in the sense that we said that it would be better to be a legendary, obviously, is that I guess you could get away with something like this because Everguild themselves often do that. Like, for example, you got Odovakar as an epic, who is a singular character who actually gets, I believe, destroyed by a word singer in the third book, I think, during the Istvan 3 thing on Istvan Extremis, and you can have 2 copies of Odovakar, and there's often named characters that you can do, so I guess you can get away with it.
No, I do know, I know that, and I do agree normally, but this one specifically does say the last flight, which is why you being able to cast it multiple times seems very strange flavorfully. Normally, you're right, I would just ignore that because Everguild do, so yeah, that's just how they do things.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is from Imanil, and this is actually, I believe, the guy who got either second or I don't remember. He got like he won, I believe, the last one, but I don't remember which place he got. So he sent the Emperor's Pride. So Kashad, it's yours.
Well, hang on, I'm looking up what a Celion squad is first. Let's see. Shadow of the War Master.
Yeah, he got the second place last time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The name did seem familiar. I have a terrible memory there. Let's see. So, I see. Okay. So, Emperor's Pride. Love that art, by the way. Don't know where you got that from, but it looks fantastic. That is a 6-energy Emperor's Children tactic. And it says deal 4 damage, presumably to any target. That's normal Everguild wording. And it says while this card is in your hand, put in play Celion squad at the start of your turn if you control no troops. So that's a very interesting sort of exploration of design space there. Obviously 6 energy for 4 burn that's quite weak. That's poor value by comparison. But the passive effect is interesting. And normally, free shit just because you drew something, that's very dangerous area to play in. But it's such a marginal benefit because Celion squads, I mean, they have a perfection trigger, but you're not going to get that if you're just putting them straight into play. So it is a 1 energy 1/2. So it's very marginal. And it telegraphs the fact you have the burn, but it's good. I quite like that. Some wording things. I actually amended it myself in my head while I was reading it. It should be whenever. While this card is in your hand. It's a minor thing, and Celion squad should be in quotations. I would also mechanically, I would say maybe it should be at the end of your turn, so that way it's not quite as easy to leverage. Also, it does a really cool thing where by showing that you are creating Celion squads, you are broadcasting to your opponent you have this card in hand, which is a piece of burn. Ironically, I think that would be more scary and more interactive if your opponent knew it was a very high damage, powerful piece of burn. So I would say you buff it up to like a 10 energy deal 7 or deal 8 or something. So it's really overcosted, but a burn spell will end the game if your opponent gets low enough, no matter how much it costs. So I think that, I like this. I like this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that also it's actually pretty fun, first of all, because I really like these, different mechanics that our contenders usually put in here. Like, I really like the idea of getting an effect when you have a card in your hand. Like once again, I'm a big fan of Gwent, so stuff like just cards jumping out of your deck and cards giving you value while in your hand, I really love them because it's like my subjective thingy, you could say, like that. I'm kind of biased over that, but yeah, I do agree it would be even scarier if it was a high cost tactic. And I also see this being used on Fulgrim, and this would push maybe a no troop Fulgrim even more, because he can just use those tactics to get his reckoning down, and all the while he's dropping these Celion squads, and then you got a big burst in your hand. So yeah, overall a pretty good card for sure. Okay,
yeah,
let's move on. The next one that we have is Lost Hope Dark Angel's Prison Transport Ship. This is actually from Rocky King, who already won twice. First he got second place, and then he got the third place. So good job on that, first of all, Rocky King. And let's see what he has so let's see what he has to offer us this time. So 3 energy legendary. Return a random tactic from the enemy hand to his deck for every enemy troop that was destroyed this turn. Legendary troops count as 2 troops for the purposes of this effect. So essentially, this is an Edict of Censure, but works under a condition. So basically what you do is you use this card and the opponent might discard a lot of tactics. So I could see some situations where this would be crazy. Like, for example, if you have a lot of troops on the board and you sacrifice a lot of them, then you just pull this and suddenly, boom, your opponent's hand is gone, right? For example, let's say if you play a combo of civilians, let's say the enemy has board control, right? And you drop the civilians, you do the Vorax Assault, and suddenly you do the Lost Hope, and boom, the enemy is edicted. So unlike the Edict of Singer, it costs a lot less. And even if only one troop dies per turn or two troops, this is already good value because you're essentially emptying the enemy's hand by this, right? And the Edict of Singer, we have seen it can be like super strong sometimes, and it can be like very weak sometimes. So yeah, I do find this pretty interesting. I think in some situations this might even be a little too strong because I remember when Everguild was planning to release that card for the Alpha Legion, I went into hysteria, like saying that no, you cannot have cards that like empty the enemy's hand so easily. So it might be a bit of a problem in that sense, might be too annoying, but does seem pretty interesting. I would definitely love using this because I'm a bit of an Edict of Censure guy. I love emptying Angron's hands and stuff like that. So it's, well, old Angron at least, it usually was very funny, or when you're playing against Chagatai Khan and you suddenly boom and he doesn't have any tactics anymore.
Oh yeah, and hitting a Titan with it was always great fun.
Absolutely. So what do you think?
Honestly, I don't like it. There's a lot of little niggling things that don't quite work. It doesn't feel very legendary for one thing, like the flavor of the card. Also, return a random tactic from the enemy hand to his deck for each enemy troop that was destroyed. That's snowballing. You're already punishing and theoretically winning by, you know, beating the crap out of their board and killing all of their troops. And then you want to also strip their hand of any catch-up mechanics. It's just, that doesn't seem very fun or balanced. Legendary troops counting as 2 is also, I think I get the flavor of this because I think this is the ship that was carrying Sevatar, wasn't it? So from our last card competition had the Astropath card, didn't it? That was related to him. But it also just feels a little clunky and out of place in this case. Well, I suppose it makes sense in some ways because it's a prison ship, so it's carrying important, notable individuals. Yeah, okay, I withdraw that objection then. But no, I still don't like the core gameplay of it. Also, it's interacting with tactics when it's a prison transport ship, which should be interacting with, you know, prisoners, which is troops. Yeah, no, sorry, I don't like this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little it's a little toxic for sure.
I do love the art though, because it reminds me of Battlestar Galactica. Those Xiphon interceptors look amazing.
Yeah, the art is absolutely like very cool for sure. I do like it. I'm not sure if this is the ship that was actually carrying Sevatar, but in any case, it's a prison ship, so yeah, you know, it's thematically
it might have been
close.
The one that brought Kurz to Imperium Secundus. Actually, here's my knowledge, my lack of knowledge from the books tripping me up because I haven't read them, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's fine. You know,
I know they happened. Like, I just don't know exactly what happened.
It's hard to remember the names of all ships. Like, there's so many.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, the next card is from Hugo. So, Chad. It's a 2-part card.
This may be a first. I think this might be the first card that I don't hate that has purples in it and isn't a reckoning. All right, this is Iron Blood. This is a legendary Iron Warriors card representing Perturabo's Gloriana class flagship, and it simply says put in play 2 macro batteries. Correctly quotation marked there. Well done. The macro batteries themselves are Iron Warrior's starship weapons, which we don't know exactly what those do unless you put a note in, but I am going to assume that they function like Titan weapons.
Yeah, he texted on the email that it's functioning exactly like Titan weapons.
Right. Are they... He may have meant to include that they also have... What's the word? Well, shutdown. Maybe not, though, actually.
Not necessarily,
effect,
because Vertex also has Titan weapons.
Oh, sorry. A macro battery is a 0-20 Titan weapon, essentially, with can't attack, because, they can't run over and beat you to death. It's a cannon battery. And it has 2 energy siege, deal 12 damage with Ordnance 6. So, obviously, that's one hell of a punch. But, oh my god, it's so slow. So it's 10 energy to play the damn thing in the first place. So that's your whole turn. And you can't even load them the turn that you get them ready. So, it's strong, but it's just so slow. I think it's actually relatively balanced. I actually quite like the concept of giving Iron Warriors these sort of massive siege units to interact with. Although it's worth noting, I think maybe a couple of the Iron Warriors cards wouldn't allow you to load this because of its unique typing. Yeah, overall, I like this. It's a very good representation of Perturabo's unsubtle way of warfare. Is that, other tactics might have fancy, clever effects and all that. Perturabo's is just, I have gun, lots of gun. It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have to say that I really, really, really like this one because the thing is, first of all, as you said, the flavor is really good and it really brings the whole Perturabo out. And on top of that, like, it really depends on how it would function with some of the mechanics for the Iron Warriors, because Iron Warriors do have something that gives vantage to everything you put into play. Plus, they also have the card to make the ability cost of the next unit that you play 0. So it is quite possible to actually do this. And if you're a Legacy player, I can imagine this being played by Foryx. He drops this, and the next turn he just kills you because he loads the siege ability of everything. And I really like it. I like these late game types of cards because Legions in general does miss a lot of late game cards for most factions. It's an aggressive game. It's usually early mid based for the most part. So I honestly do love these types of late game control cards that are not too over the top. So yeah, well done for sure.
The problem is not enough fiber in diets. If people took longer on the toilet, then EG could justify making the games longer. Because we all know where people play Horus Heresy. All right. Your turn, is it?
Yeah, and well, we have the first meme of the day, and honestly speaking, people, who the hell submitted that? Because I have no idea who this is. Like, what the hell is this? So, like, it's first of all, the best part is that you look at the picture, and there it's capital ship on the description, and. Oh my freaking god! And
is that the joke? Are they shipping you and SpongeBob? You know what shipping is, right? You're a child of the internet.
Yeah. I think that's the
that's the joke, is it? Yeah.
Freaking god! And it's 8 energy, deal 10 damage to all troops. Summon a Fiend of Slanesh with fast for each enemy troop killed this way, and it's an Emperor's Children card, of course. Oh my god! Okay, I mean, considering the fact that it doesn't meet the requirements of the tournament, I guess we need to switch it up, even though I have to say the ability itself is pretty interesting, because it's a board clear that punishes very wide type of play. So certainly there are like things to explore there, but like other than that, like, Jesus Christ, man, come on.
Well, yeah, continuing in the tradition of criticizing cards as if they were real entries, because they are. Yeah, I unironically kind of dig this design mechanically. I mean, obviously them having fast is nuts, so remove that. But if this had good art and it didn't have fast on the fiends, this would be a contender. I quite like this. Also, is that picture? That's a picture of you, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Is there some lore behind this? Did you fall asleep on stream or something?
No, basically this is like a picture from my class. I was like this was like I think I was supposed to have a class and I was just chilling, and somebody took the picture instantly when they entered Zoom and sent it to me, obviously, and we found it really funny, and then one of my friends photoshopped SpongeBob in it, and then I actually posted this picture in the Fecund ones, so I assumed that somebody from there did it.
Right. Well, whoever you are, it's we'll find you.
Fess up, man, fess up. Who's this?
All right, do you want that one to count, or do you want?
Let's have it count, and let's move on.
All right, then I'll go next. All right, so we control yourself, Shad. Let's see. We have a 4-energy Imperial Army tactic called Saturation Bombardment, and on the right hand it says Naval Saturation Bombardment. Again, slight wording issues. It should be Saturation Bombardment first, then you can call it something else if you want to add more flavor. But yeah, mechanically it says give your Warlord Resolution, deal 1 damage to all units. So, few formatting things. The resolution effect should be in quotation marks because you're giving it to the Warlord. It's not an effect of the card itself. Balance-wise, this is... Yeah, this is really toxic is the problem. I'm trying to think whether it would be unbalanced or not. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it be balanced or not because it's really toxic is the problem. The fact it's resolution, not relentless, is good, though, because that actually interacts negatively with you playing stuff during your turn. So that's a good balancing factor, at least. Also, it's not legendary. You can play multiple copies of this. Like, can you imagine how toxic just wiping the board for 2 every turn would be with no chance for interaction? I don't know. Part of me kind of wants it to exist, though, because I actually like control decks, and I hate standard troop-based meta that we have all the time, every time. What do you think, you teach?
I mean, one of the things that really bothers me is that it's a common, because warlords that are duelist warlords are going to benefit quite a bit from this. And on top of that, one thing I do like is that it might actually give you reason to play World Eater's Mission. But imagine this on Angron, though.
Oh yeah, it's going to feed his Reckoning and Magnus for the next month before he rotates.
Yeah, so this is from the guy named Nope. I do like this card. I like the idea, is what I mean, but
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit too strong, is what I. Maybe if it was like units and it was a legendary, it would be interesting, because it would be like something that duelist warlords would use a lot. So it was not unit, but it was troops, and it was only a legendary, and maybe for 5 energy, for example. But currently, I think it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree with all those changes. That would improve it. Yeah,
But it's cool, cool idea.
yeah. All right. Next one's yours, I believe.
And okay, I got the giant card this time. So let me check actually who this is from. So this is from Servants of Chaos. And let's take a look, because this is a big boy. So essentially, this is a legendary card. 8 cost, Word Bearers. By the way, guys, we received a lot of Word Bearer cards, which I was surprised about. So apparently a lot of people like them. So Furious Abyss. So Furious Abyss. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say, even though you guys know that I'm not a big Lorgar fan, I've been starting to kind of like the Legion itself, but more on that later. Maybe a separate video. So Furious Abyss, Thulian Masterwork of Jupiter. So 8 energy. Put in play Shadow Crusader Host. Put a random Legio support in hand. Choose a legendary Word Bearers and World Eaters troop or tactic to put in hand. So it does a lot of stuff. So let's go through all of those. So Shadow Crusader Host. So Shadow Crusader Host is actually a 15/15 frontline resolution, gain demon host, and backlash destroy spawn troops. A relentless, put in play Marigal Dreadnought, and if any troop has courage, also choose a Ruinstorm Demon and put it in play equal to its cost if no existing spawn troops in play. So essentially, this monster of a unit comes out for 8 energy, and it instantly is going to give itself Diamond Host, so there is a chance that it's gonna get ward, so it's basically gonna win. And every start of the turn, it puts in play Marigal Dreadnought, which is also a warded unit. And then you also, what it says is you choose the Word Bearers and a World Eater's troop to add in your hand. That is basically like the whatchamacallit, like this card that it's Legio support that it adds in your hand. So Legio Infernus is 4 energy card, which is if first Legio support played, put a copy of if first Legio support played, put a copy of Legio Audax in your hand. Choose and trigger the effect of a Traitor Legion Titan weapon. And for 3 energy, it's Wolves. If the first Legio support is played, put a copy of Legio Infernus in your hand and choose a Traitor Legio's Warhound vehicle and put it play before triggering the effect of the Ursus Claw. Jesus Christ, man, like this is way too much. Like
Yeah.
It's basically win the game.
Well, yeah, the balance is massively off. Not just talking about like the purple card bloat, but yeah, it's way too strong.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much, especially considering it's only 8 energy, not 10. Yeah. I think 15/15 with a chance of gaining Demon like gaining Ward is just too unfair. Also considering the fact that it drops Marigal Dreadnoughts, which are already some of the most obnoxious units in the game if played like by other means, right? For example,
that Shadow Crusader by itself should be a 10 energy card. If even then it should probably be weaker, and it's tacked onto an 8 energy spawner plus like a bajillion other things. Like no, just no.
Yeah, this I think the problem with this card is that it's a little bit overloaded, not a little bit, quite overloaded, and quite powerful. So I would say I actually like the Shadow Crusader host idea, but I just think it needs a lot of nerfs. For example, you could put in play a Shadow Crusader host. It could be a much weaker unit, but on the other hand, it could be more of a tactical unit, like something that has a resolution, give Demon Host to all units at the end of the turn. So essentially you drop something that maybe not way too strong, but it suddenly gives Demon Host to your whole board, right? I get the idea of why the enemy has courage, because the whole Ultramarine and Wordbearer drama that they had, which makes a lot of sense. You could, of course, keep that it also adds a bonus when playing against the Ultramarines. I just think that currently it's a little bit too much. Shad?
Yeah, absolutely the same. It's a shame because I like the concept of a massive Giga card that does everything being the Furious Abyss, because they were some of the largest spaceships ever constructed during the Horus Heresy. It makes perfect sense. But yeah, no, this isn't the way to do it. What you needed to do here was make some kind of Imperium Secundus style card, but as a dark mirror of it. You have the three factions already there: the Word Bearers, the World Eaters, and the Traitor Legios. Would have been great. Maybe something like you get the three choices, you pick one of them, and it just puts it straight into play or plays it, and the other two go to your hand. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But yeah, it's doing way too much, and it's just massive, and the balance is like way off as well. It's I like the art though. That's a classic. That's from Laserburn, I believe, before even Rogue Trader or Warhammer First Edition ever came out. So yeah, it's very nice. But no.
All right, so the next Bucephelus is yours, and this is from a player called Zvoxis.
Okay. Let's see then. Bucephelus, the Emperor's personal flagship. So there's a correct way to put the extra flavor text in on the right-hand side. Although Emperor should be capitalized as well as personal flagship. Slight quibble, but again, only a minor issue. Text-wise, it is 10 energy, and it says, draw and put in play 2 Custodies from your deck that cost 4 or more, and give them front line. So this is essentially Desperate Defense on steroids. But it fits. That's the flavor of what it should be with the Bucephalus, and it's incentivizes you to play heavy Custodies, but it also doesn't force you to only do that. You can also play cheap Custodies, so it's incentivizing stuff that you might not normally play, which is quite nice. I could see a Valdor build with this. Obviously the art's cropped wrong. I mean, you didn't have room to actually put it in properly, of course. I guess you could have tilted it a little maybe, but that would have been effort. Put it in an AI upscaler or like one of those programs that fills in the extra, but yeah, it's pretty decent.
Pretty good. I don't really have much to add to that. It's I have the same idea, like it's basically Desperate Defense, and it does suit the Custodies more than it suits anything else, so I'd totally be up for that.
Yeah, I'd run it in my Shapura.
Yeah, definitely. For Shapura, it would have been even cooler. Okay, let's then move on to another Dark Angel card, more specifically a Defender of Caliban card. This is from Zermal, the Changer. So Spear of Truth. So Zermal is a big Defender of Caliban fan, so let's see what he has for us. So this is Spear of Truth. Merir Astellan's Battle Barge. Your Warlord deals 3 damage to the first troop your opponent puts in play each turn. Holy hell, there's a couple of things I want to say about this, and most of them are good. So first thing is that, as we mentioned when I dropped this card, as soon as it was sent, is that it's really reminiscent of the Merir Astellan's ability that he has, so it makes a lot of sense. It's basically Astellan's ability, but instead of now sacrificing his own troops, basically he gets the orbital support and he bombards it, basically, and deals the 3 damage. So this is pretty thematic. The art is all right, for sure. It's a bit of a big picture, so probably he could not have fitted the whole thing there, once again, without AI help. And the only issue I might have with this is that it might be a little bit too over the top, because like once you play this, a lot of enemy troops are kind of locked down, because whenever an opponent plays something of 3 HP or lower, it just gets removed. However, it can also be played around, I guess. Like, it's bad against duelist warlords, it's bad against warlords that spam troops or have the ability to summon troops, like Chaos Spawn, for example. They can essentially waste energy to mitigate this effect, but that's one of the problems, because when you play this, you're essentially forcing your opponent to waste energy every turn to counter this. But overall, I gotta say I kind of like it. What about you?
Yeah, no, I love the flavor of this as well. Mimicking Mirror Astalan's ability in his Battle Barge, perfect. Few formatting issues. Battle Barge should be capitalized. It should have the effect should have quotation marks. It should be your Warlord gains and then quotation marks, deal 3 damage, blah 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 blah, to all of that. Art could be cropped a bit better. Legendary is appropriate. It feels a little toxic. I love the card, but it should be 6, maybe 7 energy, maybe even more. Honestly, it's a strong effect. Again, it's one of those late game control cards, though, which I wish the game would move more towards. It would be quite interesting seeing more control v control matchups. They just don't seem to happen very often. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay, so now moving on to the first edgy boy of the day, Night Lords, Pesman 300. Shad, this is yours.
All right, Nightfall, 8 energy, a legendary Night Lord's tactic, and it reads, deal 2 damage and stun all enemy troops, and give stealth to all friendly troops with murder. So, this I believe Nightfall was Conrad Kurz's personal Gloriana. The art's nice. It seems like you've edited this one personally rather than using the editor, which is interesting, but yeah, it works. Honestly, it's kind of weak, is the thing. The Night Lords already have a card that stealths all their murder troops, and it's better than this because you can actually leverage it in combo it with troops you play that turn. The effect's interesting though. Slight formatting. It should be deal 2. What should it be? Deal 2 damage to all enemy troops and stun them. I suppose it would be. It's better grammatically, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, it's all right.
You know what I think? I think it's definitely all right. I love the art. I love the theme, but the thing is, I think it's kind of weak as well because when you deal 2 damage to everything for 8 energy and then stun them and then getting stealth, it kind of doesn't make sense because you already stunned the whole board, right? So that stealth is not going to be as useful as it would be in that case. Now, what we could do here is, for example, you could have a cheaper card like this, and what you could do is maybe remove the deal 2 damage and instead maybe have like a lower energy cost card, let's say 6 or 5 or whatever, and stun all enemy troops and give stealth to all troops in your hand. Now that would be a little stronger, right? Not a little, but quite a bit stronger, because stun and stealth together are kinda, I think, like, it's counterintuitive, you know what I mean? But overall, I think there's room for improvement for sure.
It's a Gloriana though, so I wouldn't want to make it too much cheaper and remove the damage because the firepower is what it represents. What I think I would do is make it give your Warlord stealth as well. Just all friendly units gain stealth, so it functions like the old Deliverance, I suppose it would be, but a lot more expensive, so therefore more balanced. Because
Right.
that's what it is. It's a defensive Gloriana battleship. I think this was destroyed fighting the Dark Angels. It did a rearguard action to try and stop the fleet, so that would make sense if it's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's decent.
Oh boy, I get the other purple. Okay, so this is from the Perturabo guy. That's how I call him, Perturabo guy, because for me, from now on, he's Perturabo, basically. So essentially, we got an Imperial Army Legendary, 10 energy. And it's a big thing. Deal 6 to 8 damage to a random enemy and adjacent units while dealing 3 to 6 damage to units directly opposite of the affected unit. And you deploy 4 UFS, and he already told me it's a unique faction specific troop. That cost unique faction specific infantry that cost 7 or less for the opponent and deal 3-4 damage to them. If they die, give a hard landing to the opponent, and if 1 or less die, give them defiance, right? If your warlord is Lotara, Pollux, or Veronica, this card costs 1 less. So the cards that it has hard landing, deploy 2 UFS, 3 cost infantry and give them front line, deal 1 damage to all units, discard this card at the end of your turn, so you have to use it when it's played. Beat or Defiance, heal 2 to your units, give your troops 1+1+1/1. Sorry, discard the card at the end of your turn. And then there's like the small meme that he added, Planned Descent. Of course, it's Alpha Legion. It's too late to undo your mistakes. 12 energy, 99. Shields, rally your opponent resigns. Keywords, all of them. Meme special. Okay, yeah. He obviously joked with this one. But yeah, as for the card, you might think that I'm gonna like go apeshit on it and say, oh my god, like overloaded, but not exactly. It is overloaded. I do think so. And we try to avoid cars that are too overloaded because it becomes a bit of a, shit fest. But one thing that I really do like about this is that it has a very interesting, unique thing. So you deal damage to a troop, and however, the opposite troops also take damage. Your troops, basically, right? So this is very interesting because this could also make you think about how you're setting your board up, right? I think if you were to remove most of these deeper mechanics like Beater Defiance and stuff like that, you could just have a targetable card like this that deals 6 to 8 damage to an enemy and adjacents and deals 3 to 6 to opposite ones. So this way, it could actually matter a lot what you're targeting and what you have on the board, because it could have like a very let's say it could have a tactical purpose. Currently, I do think it's overloaded with text, which would be a big problem. So what do you think, Shad?
I had a very similar idea actually in my custom cards folder. It's like this, what you just described actually. Deal damage to something, it deals damage to adjacent enemies and opposite units, so hitting your own stuff. That is a cool card in there. If you use that, mine was balance was all off, but it just has all this extra stuff that it doesn't need to have, and it's massive, and also it has a conditional discount at the end with like Lotara, Pollux, or Veronica. Again, I get the flavor. They all piloted ships, quite important ones during the Heresy, but they just mean that they'll only be played by them, basically. If you balance them around that discount, only those warlords can use them, and if you don't balance them around that discount, those warlords get a massive disproportionate buff from them. So discounting for specific warlords, never a good idea. Pretty much never. I can't think of a single case when it would be a good idea. Unique effects, that's fine if it really makes sense flavorfully, but no, just flat discounts. Honestly, I don't say very often just stop sending that kind of mechanic, but that is one that I really can't see when it would ever be a good idea. But the hard landing, the Bitter Defiance, they're all fine. I'm with you though, Teacher. I like the burn mechanic one. The 10 energy, just like blow something up at random and see what happens. That feels very much like a falling, crashing starship, like the art is.
Yeah, what it's supposed to be, basically.
Mm.
Okay, next one is from Rogue Vindicator Assassin, the famous fan of the Assassinorum, basically. So please take a look at the Ultio.
Well, he's definitely sent the right card in then, if that's his flavor. Yes, the Ultio, Black Ops vessel. It has Reflection. Choose an Assassinorum operative and put it into your hand. It costs 1 less. And it's Imperial Army, neutral, so you can put it anywhere. Honestly, I like the flavor. The art's quite endearing, actually. Obviously, it's not up to normal, like, EG standards, but yeah. But honestly, I love the flavor, but I don't think it's mechanically a very good card, because 9 times out of 10, you're just going to pick Machine, play the Machines, etc., etc.
Though there is a chance that you don't get the Machine, because, there's, I think...
How would I change it? It should be kind of like an Execution Force style effect, I reckon. It should be maybe a little more expensive, and it just adds all the Assassinorum operatives to your hand, so 1 of each. That way you don't get to choose, and you can't just choose the broken. It's interesting. I like the lore.
Yeah, honestly speaking, there's also a thing that you're probably not going to get Mshen always, because there's 5 choices. There's like Mshen, Covert Operative, Aristodekel, Ganimus, and Calexis Assassin. So, yeah, basically that's the thing. Now, what I think... Yeah, what I... Is it working now, Shad?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I said, or do I need to say it again?
Yeah, I'm gonna say what I was saying. So yeah, there's like 5 assassins in total, so maybe you're not always gonna get DM Shen. This could be a very nice late game card to just refill your hand, and with every faction that you can kind of play around tactics, maybe make tactics cheaper, like Fulgrim, for example. This could be pretty interesting, obviously. I like the flavor as well. However, it might also be better to just add all the operatives, like a copy of all the operatives to your hand. Like, this would be a cool way to refill your hand in the late game. So yeah, I think overall a pretty good card. Nice flavor. Could use some changes, but certainly I like this one, I have to admit.
How many assassins? I think there's only 4 assassin troops in the game, even though there are 6 assassin clads.
Oh, there's 5. Mshen, Covert Operative, Aristodekel, Canimus, and Calixus.
Oh right, Aristed. Yeah, Covert Operative. That's the one that basically represents the Varnus, isn't it? Yeah, and Venenum are basically execution. What was it? Execution Order or something? The 2 energy one that deals 10 damage to something in the enemy's deck. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we got the Kalidus, the Vanus, the Vindicare, the Eversor, and the Venenum.
Yeah.
Not Venenum, sorry, Calixus,
since there are 5, that does make it a little more balanced, because you're not always going to roll Meshen, but you're going to roll her a lot, so...
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So the next card that we got here is a very good one, honestly, because I love the art. So it's from a player called Ravenous Tal, Orpheo's Lament. So 5 energy word bearer legendary. Look at that art, man. It's amazing. It's a little bit out of the format there because there's a small gray area on the bottom, but the art is so good. So 5 energy. Destroy all infantry, then put in play 3 friendly Astartes that died this game. Give them each one instance of demon host per troop destroyed. Ooh, I like it, because this gives the whole Lorgar sacrifice build a whole new meaning, you know? Because like with Lorgar, first of all, you could now not only rely on your transformation with civilians, but you could also rely on this to summon some Astartes. This could also be good for whatchamacallit, the guy. What's he called, like his dad?
Corpheron.
Corpheron, yeah, there you go. Well, not his dad, but you know what I mean, basically. So
Adopted.
yeah. So I gotta admit I like this one. So Shad, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it too, but the balance is way off, because obviously you're comparing this against something like Promethean Resurrection or whatever it's called, the new Salamanders one. Like 3 friendly Astartes that died this game for 5 energy, that's a lot of value. You don't get to choose, but Salamanders also had another similar effect, which was 5e for 1 Astartes. Yes, you get to choose it, but still, that's a significant disparity in power there. Put it up to like 7 or 8 energy. Yeah, I can see it. It's a good card. I love the art. I love the flavor. I don't know what the Orpheo's Lament is. I suspect that's something from actual lore, though, so that's probably from one of the more minor books we haven't read. Yeah, no, I like it. It's the balance is off, that's all.
All right, so the next one that we have over here, the next one that we got here, basically is another custody ship from Zach, and it's Imperator Somnium, so it's yours.
All right, yes, Imperator Somnium, an 8 energy Custodes legendary tactic, the Battle Barge of the Emperor. So he did have 2, and the Bucephelus was also one of the steeds of the Emperor, because, referencing Alexander the Conqueror. But this was his other one, and it says deal 3 damage to all enemies. For each enemy, put in play 1 Ares Guard. So I really like this. It's got several like conflicting counter-synergistic mechanics going, but that is what makes it good, because it balances it. So the deal 3 damage to all enemies, that's a pretty good effect. That's about 6 energy worth of damage usually. I'd say 6 or 7. But then it also has the effect for each enemy put in play 1 Ares Guard. So you're always going to get at least 1, because your warlord, the enemy warlord, will be there. But therein lies the sort of counterbalancing act you've got there. The more troops that don't die to the AoE, the more counter troops you get to guard your face. Ares Guard are 3/4 frontliners, of course. So it's just perfect flavor. The Battle Barge of the Emperor lays down just absolute hellfire on the enemies, and then his personal guard deploy en masse to protect you, the warlord. I love this card. This is great.
Yeah,
one slight issue. The art's cropped badly, actually. Okay, there you go. Not perfect points. 9 out of 10. Or something like that.
Fair enough, but not much to say. This is an amazing card, honestly. I love everything about it, and yeah, I really don't have much to add, just saying that it's a very good card.
Oh, slight wording, actually. I don't know if it's for each enemy in play might be better. I don't know. It's a little ambiguous is all. I mean, I can understand what it's supposed to say, but maybe some other way of doing it might work. But yeah, it's good. It's good. All right, sorry, your turn.
Okay, so War Master Abaddon's card, which is the Vengeful Spirit, obviously. That's what it should be. So flagship of Horus Lupercal. 3 energy Vengeful Spirits. It's a little cropped a little bit badly. There's a gray area on the bottom. It's basically the same art as the original one in the game. So your Warlord gains, give Sons of Horus troops put in play landing, gain Mark of Chaos and +1/+1. So I can see, like, even from the previous tournament, that people are trying to really push the drop pod landing type of play for Sons of Horus. This is a very strong card because it's 3 energy, right? So every time you give this thing a 3 energy, when you drop a Conquering Host, it's gonna get a little scary, especially if you have some other buffs there. It, of course, doesn't incentivize like a very new type of play. However, it's a very nice little buff. It's pretty strong. I don't think it's like overpowered or underpowered per se, because most drop pods get opened up anyway. It's, I guess, something that just makes you respect the drop pods a little bit more. So what do you think, Shad?
Yeah, I like it. The more I look at it, the more I like it. Because when I first read it, I was like, "This is rubbish. It doesn't give. Why are you giving a landing effect to troops that won't have drop pod?" But actually, that's a good design choice, because it means that you can't just jam whatever you want in. You need drop pod troops to leverage. There's a few formatting issues. It should be Horus Lupercal, should be capitalized. Flagship is one word. I would. It's got the right quotation marks, though. I would say it shouldn't be Sons of Horus troops either, because that leads to the confusion before about giving it to troops without drop pod, and it's also parasitic if you generate it through some other method. I would say give your troops with drop pod put in play landing. So if you happen to get this somehow and you're playing Blood Angels, or lots of factions have a little bit of drop pod here and there, then it won't be quite so dead. That would be my suggestion. But yeah, I do like it. I do like it.
Okay, so Shad, the next one that we got is actually going to be from Carter. And Carter has participated in like all of our tournaments. And he's actually the one who made the worst friendship, which I loved. But now I think he made something very, very cool. So I want you to check it out, and then I'll say a couple of things after that. Go on.
All right. Well, this is Craftworld Ulthway, from presumably the Craftworld Ulthway faction. And it has 3 energy, and it costs 3 energy, and it has changed the attack of all units to 0 until your next turn. That's all units, friendly and enemy. If any unit gain damage on enemy turn, give shield to your units. So presumably what that means is whenever any of your units take damage during the enemy's turn, then you get all of your stuff gets shield, which is a cool effect.
Or it might be that if the enemy, I think what he meant there is that if you have like a troop that can gain damage, let's say you're playing Fulgrim, right? And with Fulgrim, your attack was 0, but now you can press your ability to increase that attack above 0, then the enemy gets a shield.
That seems like a strange wording. I think it's probably just you used the wrong word. Would be my theory. I think it's pretty much supposed to be when you damage something, all the other units you have gain shield, so that it's like it's like a defensive mechanism. Yeah. There's some wording issues here. Yeah, it's basically just wording, honestly, and obviously we can't really evaluate the card in a vacuum, because it's from a custom faction, which presumably he's working on, which, who knows, maybe you'll make a video on that someday. But it's very nice art, and I would love to see the Eldari added to Horus Heresy. I know EG don't have the license for it, but Xeno, that would add a whole sort of breath of fresh air to the game.
We got them in Warforged, though.
Yeah, well, that's a different license, isn't it? Yeah. It's all right. Yeah.
You know why I love this card? Because I think this is one of the best implementations of the theme ever. Because this is for sure from the book Fulgrim, which he actually texted me that was from Fulgrim, the book 5 of Horus Heresy. And in book 5, there's this scene when, basically from Craftworld Ulthway, Eldrad basically meets up with Fulgrim, essentially to discuss some stuff, because he's there to warn him about the whole Horus Heresy thing. He's trying to reason with Fulgrim, and
Yeah.
they basically what they try to do there is parlay, which of course doesn't go well because then he sees that Fulgrim basically has the lair blade, and it all
Yeah.
ends with an Avatar of Cain being strangled to death by Fulgrim. But anyway, I really like this whole thing because it really changing attack of all units to 0 and also gaining the shield if anybody gets damaged really is reminiscent of what happened there. Like, it was supposed to be a peaceful parlay, but then things went wrong, and then they gain shield because that means now they're ready to defend and fight.
Yeah, with
So
that
it's a
added
pretty cool
context,
thing.
that does seem better, yeah. There is a slight issue as well, though. The second effect, if any unit gains damage on the enemy turn, give shield to units, that doesn't have a timer on it, so that is permanent, and I don't think that's intended, because that's way too strong for 3 energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. The next thing that we got is from our boy from Fecund Ones, Phobos Encoder. So, Phobos Encoder Fabrication Ship, 0 energy, Mechanicum. Until your next turn, your Mechanicum vehicle and structure cost 3 less, and you lose 1 maximum energy for each card play. Ooh, this is very interesting. Honestly, this reminds me of the overload mechanic from Hearthstone. So you gain a huge bonus by playing something really strong, but then you're losing maximum energy. Well, for Hearthstone, it was locking your mana crystals, not losing your energy. Like, it locked the mana for 1 turn. But essentially, I think this is a very interesting thing. This is an interesting mechanic. I always like cards that give you bonuses but have like a payoff, like something that costs to really penalizes you on the first next turn. So if you're essentially your initiative, your gambit didn't work, then you're in trouble. But however, some things might go a little crazy because I can already feel playing against like proctors and stuff like that who have this, which is gonna be very, very toxic. So what do you think, Shad?
Yeah. At first, my first thought was, oh my god, that's a massive discount. That's going to be busted. But it's kind of hard to leverage. It depends on the wording, because the wording's unclear. If it's all Mechanicum cards, all vehicle cards, and all structure cards, that's busted. You can make the most disgusting White Scars combo deck in existence. But I think what it's supposed to be is, until your next turn, your vehicle and structure cards from the Mechanicum cost 3 less, and that is balanced. Honestly, I if it's the latter, I would like that card. I do like that card, but the former, busted as hell. Never print it. Yeah, it's pretty cool, honestly. Assuming it's the correct version.
All right, so let's go to the next one. Next one's yours, Orbital Supremacy.
All right. Orbital Supremacy. Don't we have multiple cards called Orbital Supremacy in here?
There's
Okay.
Orbital Supremacy and there's like Orbital Support, which is the subcard of that purple.
Okay. Right, Orbital Supremacy then. It's a 5 energy legendary Imperial Army tactic with give counterattack to all enemy troops until the start of your next turn. If any enemy troops already have counterattack, destroy them instead. Your Warlord gains Relentless. Put an Orbital Support in your hand. And the Orbital Support is a 1 energy purple card that says choose, so presumably it means choose 1 there, which is put a Thunderbolt attack, Air Superiority, or Avenger Strike in your hand. It costs 2 less. And those 3 cards are already existing in the game, so you can put those up on the screen so people can see what it's actually supposed to do. Problem is, it's neutral, and it's a store card, and it's like, we already have Titan Legion 5 energy can't attack to all enemy troops thing, and that's strong already, and this is better. Although technically it doesn't give counterattack to the enemy warlord, so it's marginally less, but also has the relentless boost. I don't know. It's wordy, but it's not worded bad. Like, all that text is doing things. That's not a problem. I just don't think I like the concept that much, really, which is rare. It's most of the I suppose it is just better port more, really.
Yeah, it is, because cards like Portmore are usually trash. So this is like an example of how it would be playable. I guess it's all right. Maybe in some cases, this could make some interesting combos with Can't Attack Warlords, obviously. So there's something like that. So you can imagine Modern playing this. Ouch, that would be pretty scary. But yeah, overall, I think it's fine. It's fine. Okay, let's move on. So next is the Lance of Heaven. and it's sent by Gaskell. So the orcs apparently looted the white scars, I guess. So 7 energy, deal 7 damage, so essentially it's like a Pride of the Emperor. Return this card to your hand and cost 2 more. However, if you do Streak, this card costs 2 less. So essentially it's like similar to the old Pride of the Emperor, which used to go back into the enemy deck and reduce the cost, but you had to like trigger Perfection in order to do that. I think this is interesting for sure. Because I like that the cost increases, right? Because if the cost increases, that means once you play this, then you have to play it for 9 energy. And after that, you cannot play it anymore because you cannot play it for 11 energy, right? Because you can go over 10 energy. The Streak, this card costs 2 less, however, so as long as you're proccing Streak, then you could do this. And this is actually a little bit toxic because as soon as you get to 7 energy with drilling sites, you could play this every turn, and it's a little bit toxic. I think if it just costs 2 more after you play, it would be pretty interesting. I don't think it needs the Streak.
I like the Streak in concept. It's just, like you said, it would just be a toxic burn tool. What I think would be more interesting would be if it was like a 2 or 3 energy and it just said spend your remaining energy and deal that much damage, because that way the Streak could add up and the extra costs could add up as well. So that would sort of have a push and pull effect going on there of how much you want to spend it for. It would make it very easy to trigger the Streaks with, of course, though. So maybe not the best idea. It's repeatable burn. That's generally not a good idea. Yeah, it's a cool idea though, and I like the art. That looks like something from Battlefleet Gothic, but rammed through a filter. So yeah, nice. Actually, I feel like I should addendum this as well, because the last video we did, I got the wrong art. I got the wrong website. The website I use is Photor. It's not Photopea. Oh well. Looks like they found something that works.
Okay, so
right, next one is me?
Yeah, it's you, Terminus Est.
All right, let's see if they can outdo your version. So let's see. Terminus Est, a 7 energy legendary Death Guard tactic. It is Typhon's flagship. And it says, put in play 2 random Astartes with Poisonous and give them Mark of Chaos. Give Poisonous 1 to your Warlord. So, few formatting issues. Terminus Est should be at the left of the text box, not the middle. But, yeah, it's fine. Honestly, I don't like this card. It's very random. The Astartes with Poisonous range all the way from like 1 energy all the way up to, I think the chunkiest one is like 8. It's a big range of random. They gain Mark of Chaos as well, and give Poisonous 1 to your Warlords. That's half of the Harbinger of Decay that they already have. That's fine, but it's just so random. It's not healthy. That could completely swing a game, or it could completely whiff.
Yeah, I think the general problem with this is the randomness, because we in general try to avoid so much randomness, because when that happens, it usually is not fun for anybody once again. So yeah, I think it has potential, but it should not be like that random. You could change the way it works, just say Astartes that cost 4 or something like that, and it will definitely work. Okay, so the next one is the Avenger Battle Barge, Brandnev's Battle Barge, Raven Guard. Return your troops to your hand. Your Warlord gains stealth and add one random trap to your deck. Oh, this is pretty interesting. So the Alpha Legion shenanigans, them sabotaging the Raven Guard. So you essentially you return your troops into your hand. So if you could do a combo with this, and your Warlord gains a defensive stealth, but your deck also gets filled up with traps, and it's 7 energy. I'm not too sure actually about this. What do you think?
Oh, it's super weak. What the hell? Like, returning your troops to your hand with no discount is already inherently basically a disadvantage. Your Warlord gains stealth is nice, but then it also throws a trap in your deck. Like, this could be 2 energy, 3 energy maybe. It's very overcosted. Honestly, what would make it more interesting and balanced would be if it returned all troops to hand. So your troops go to yours, their troops go to theirs. So like the Ruin Storm card? Yeah. I like the flavor though, because 1 random trap to a deck, that very obviously represents Raven Delve and the Alpha Legion shenanigans. Yeah, that is good. But no, it's just the mechanics, the balance is way off. Also, it should be Avenger, not Avenger, but that's a minor quibble. That's just spelling.
All right. Yeah, I guess that is the thing. I kind of got stuck on this one. I wasn't really sure now what to say, so left it up to you.
Left it up to me, the arsehole.
The next one, Shad, is the beta from our Amon creator, so take a look at that.
All right, yeah, it's got his. He's put a weird filter over it again. He always does this. All right, the beta Battle Barge. It is a 5 energy Alpha Legion tactic with reflection, meaning you can potentially play it twice or maybe even more with enough discounts, although that would be quite difficult. And it says transform a friendly damaged Astartes into Efrit Disruptor and give it fast. Now, if I recall correctly, Efrit Disruptor is a 6/7 stealth, I think.
Yeah, that's the new cloaked sniper guy.
Yeah, with the resolution effect. So, honestly, I mean, it's 5 energy, deal a lot of damage. The problem is I can see this being quite toxic as the thing, because, like, if you already have a board, it's just going to give you, like, 12 damage on turn 10, because you'll swing into their Warlord, you'll then have damaged troops, because they've taken 2 damage from the Warlord, and then you can just beta them to death with another 12 damage from hand. For 1 card, it's a lot of damage. I like the flavor, though. It's cool. I think if you just remove the fast from it, obviously it needs to be 5 energy so that you can like keep the flavor of you can cast it twice, but only twice because it's the beta, Alpha and Beta, Alpha Legion, 2 heads, blah blah blah. So you'd have to make it a little stronger to compensate, I suppose. I don't really know exactly how you do that, but it's a cool idea. I don't think I think it'd be kind of toxic. That's all.
Okay, Shad, when it comes to the beta, and I also definitely want to say just how consistent his weird filters are always, as you said. So yeah, and there's also, if you notice, on the faction part on the background, there's something messed up as well. So I think he's still shenaniganing some stuff there, but in general, I think this is actually quite all right, and I'll tell you in what sense. So it's a 5 energy, basically deal 6 damage, kinda, with the Ifrit. But there's another thing. So if you were to play this on 10 energy, it would be a lot of damage, obviously, like around 12 damage. But the thing is, you need to transform a damaged Astartes, right? So you need to have at least 2 Astartes on the board in order to pull this off. And Alpha Legion, I mean, they are more Astartes-based than the other than the old Alpha Legion. Maybe this is something that you can combo with the Infiltrator Silas that you're gonna get from traps, and if you do manage to roll a couple of those, Ghost Legion basically, and then turn them into Ifrit, there it's gonna be very scary. Though I do agree, yeah, fast units, there's a reason probably why fast units are being nerfed into flank as the game like goes into field. You remember, like, in the old days, how many fast units we had? It was like crazy, and almost everything got nerfed into flank. I guess because fast is probably a little bit toxic as it is, though I do not mind there being some aggro in the game. So yeah, definitely an interesting thing with the potential to be a little bit toxic, but I do like how it combos into the Ghost Legion.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think the next one's yours. Orpheo's Lament, again.
Once again. So yeah, everybody loves Orpheo's Lament. So, and everybody loves Argel Tal. So let's go. So Orpheo's Lament, Wordbearer's Cruisers, 3 energy one this time, which is an epic. And if I remember correctly, the previous Orpheo's Lament was a golden one. Okay, so it's once again a reflection card. Deal 2 damage. If the target survives, give it Demon Host. Otherwise, deal 2 damage to a random enemy troop. So essentially what you're doing is you can choose a target and you can deal 2 damage to it. If the target survives, it's also going to get Demon Host. So that means you can use this on your Warlord, to give it Demon Host. And there's also going to be it's also possible to use it on your troop or enemy warlord. So here's the interesting thing. You probably never want to use this on the face because you're giving Demon Host every single time you damage it. But look at this. If you target something and it dies, then you deal 2 damage to a random enemy troop. This is actually a pretty interesting card because it has multiple uses. So first of all, you can use this as just a simple removal tool. Let's say your opponent has like two low health troops, you can just shoot one and the other just also dies because it goes to a random troop with another point of 2 damage, and it's a reflection. So you can use this as a board wipe. You can use this to buff your warlord with demon host, which is always pretty interesting. You can use this to buff a troop with demon host. You can use this to maybe finish off the enemy warlord if they're low, and you can use this to trigger sacrifice. So basically you can basically use this on, let's say, something like Kutra said, and not only will it trigger its sacrifice, but it will also gift it the demon host, right? So you could potentially do a lot of very interesting stuff with this in the early, mid, and late game as well. What do you think?
I'm glad you went first on this one, because when I first looked at it, I hated it, but all those points you raised are very valid. So yeah, it's kind of like I was going to say worse plague. What was it? The plague bomb, blight grenade. But not being able to hit face is actually kind of a buff. Really, it's a lot more controllable because the blight grenades will often like stop chain reacting just when they randomly hit the enemy face. So Orpheus Lament can't do that. Plus reflection, always helpful. And of course the self buff abilities. That's a surprisingly well balanced card. The more I think about it. I like this a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's also, so this is from Hypnomarine, and he also, explained the flavor behind it, and it's really, really, really good, actually, like, in terms of lore, because like basically the design was inspired by the fact that Argyle mutated to a demon on its board, is what I said. So it makes a lot of sense because like when you're giving your warlord a demon host, you're essentially mirroring what happened there. But at the same time, you can also do some other stuff, and it's also just like the Mirror Astellan card. It's reminiscent of Argyle ability to deal damage and act again. So it's tied like very well overall.
Lots of flavor. Yeah, I do like that.
Absolutely.
Pretty solid. All right. All right. 9 energy, Dark Sovereign for our next card. Dark Angels card.
From the player Zir.
Yeah, Ancient Dark Angels Cruiser. That is a very chaotic looking piece of art, but it looks cool. It says, deal 6 damage to 2 random enemies with Ordnance 4. Your next Dark Angels Astartes has +2/+2 and fast. Worth noting, that is a consistent effect that will last between turns. So you blow them up with this on 9, then you have 10 energy to put whatever you want in play, and it's going to smack them right in the face. No, don't like this. That's fast, very toxic, as we just previously discussed with beta. This is arguably worse because, like, you can use however much energy you want on this Astartes that's going to hit them in the face. It's burn itself, although not very accurate burn at least. But yeah, and honestly, the art does seem to have an Aquila or an Imperial Eagle on top, but it doesn't look very Dark Angels is another problem as well. Yeah. I don't actually know the lore behind the Dark Sovereign though, so maybe there's something behind it that explains why it looks so chaotic.
Okay, so let me tell you what I think. As we discussed, like in general, this is a little bit strong. Obviously, not a little bit, which is quite a bit strong because you're gonna basically deal 6 damage maybe to the enemy warlord if there's only 1 unit on the board, and next turn you basically have it like a raven, right? So this can be pretty powerful. At the same time, I do like the fact that it's a finisher. I do like the idea of finishers in general. So the thing with this is, I guess that it's meant to be like, it's meant to push a very aggro Dark Angel style. This is also a player, I don't know if you remember, Shad, but one of the cards that we had last time was the Enigmati, the one that you liked a lot.
Oh yeah, he's a Dark Angel fanboy, is he?
So he made like the similar thing. By the way, I also have his guys, stay tuned because I have his Dark Angels special like custom made faction to present that's coming after Old Man Bob's faction that's gonna drop either tomorrow or today, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I guess the whole whole thing here is that it's meant to like support once again a very aggro Dark Angel style, a little bit too strong. As for what it looks like, I mean, I don't think there's like a good piece of art available for that, so I guess he had to improvise there. And yeah, this is supposed to be a really powerful ancient worship for them, as much as I remember. And this is I don't remember either like where exactly this was featured. I'm not a huge Dark Angels fan in general, to be honest. But as far as I know, yeah, it's supposed to be a big deal. So yeah, pretty good overall, but a little bit too strong once again.
I'd have to disagree on usage as well. It's not an aggro card. It's far too heavy for that because you have to run both a 9 energy burn and something that makes it worth playing. So like a really big chunky boy, and like you need a few to be consistent. So yeah, this is mid-rangey stuff. You probably play it in like Lion, basically. You know, like everything else.
Yeah, pretty much. Most probably.
Right. Was it me or you? You. Right.
Oh, it's me, and this one's for my friend actually, George, and he made. Oh, you guys might know George from my streams. He's the Arcology Jagatai that appeared once in my duels and had me going crazy because I was like, why would you do that? Why would you self-sabotage like that? But yeah, so he's a big Wordbearers fan in general, so he made Fidelus Lex, the flagship of Lorgar Aurelian, 12 energy cost. Give all your units Demon Host twice. Cost 2 less for each demon you have played this game. So basically it's unplayable at the start, just like for example the Molten Giants in Hearthstone and the Norn Emissary in Warforge. So you have to reduce the cost when you are playing demons. Now if Nurglings was a thing, the U would make this cheap like very, very easily. So you need to play 6 demons to make this cost 0, right? So this is basically pushing the demon type of theme for Wordbearers. Now, well, Wordbearers are demon themed in general. Like you got these Astartes demon host and some demons in there, but nowadays mostly demons are not being played that much because ever since the nerf to the Book of Lorgar. But I guess this is meant to push that like play style back in. So you play a lot of demons and then you play this for cheap, and all your units plus your warlord gain demon host. So this could also be a Lorgar's card actually, which makes sense because you know Lorgar's flagship. So you reduce the cost a lot, then you play like a lot of displaced civilians, you play this, and then you transform Lorgar, and he's gonna have demon host twice on top. Ouch. Scary stuff. What do you think, Shad?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's a Lorgar card. I think it's a what's his dad? Corpheron card, because there's a real push and pull going on here between the fact that you need to play demons to lower it, but also you need non-demons to actually gain much benefit from it, because the demon host obviously won't buff actual demons. And you do need to play actual demons, like you said, because it's for each demon you've played, so you can't give them demon host retroactively. Although there are Astartes/demon combos that would definitely help, wouldn't hurt your deck building. Yeah, I would say maybe a little too strong. It should be a bit more expensive because, I mean, the way the card is worded, it doesn't care whether it's in your hand or not, just how many demons you played in the entire game. So as soon as you draw it, you can just drop it if you played enough demons.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, no, I like the idea. It's a cool idea for Fidelus Lex.
Yeah, maybe the thing you want to do with this is cost 2 less, not for each demon you played this game, but reduce the cost by 2 whenever you play a demon. In that case, it would be more balanced for sure.
Well, maybe, but also then it becomes really random and RNG with draw order. That's why a lot of the current hard removals feel so bad, because your opponent can just randomly slap you with a 0 energy. Haha, you lose your massive tempo Teddy Starties or whatever.
World Eaters moments.
Yeah, exactly. I happened to draw it at the right time and there's nothing you can do about it. No interactivity. So I prefer his way of doing it with Fidelus Lex. I just think it's not quite tuned right. But yeah, that is the best way, in my opinion.
Okay, so the next card that we got here is yours. And until you describe it, I'm going to find who this card is from.
Sure thing. Well, in that case, it is the Fortress of Eternity, Kamba Diaz's command ship, a 4-energy Imperial Fists epic tactic. And it says, put 2 Aximov supports in play and give them Vantage. Aximov supports are cards already in the game. I'm sure you'll put them up when you edit this, Teach. And they are structure support cards, essentially. So 1 energy, 1/3s with a 0 energy free ability to give +0/+2 to a friendly structure. And since they have Vantage from this, that means you can use them as soon as they enter play. Formatting issues, it should probably be Aximov support, should be in quotation marks, and the right hand name is a little lengthy, but pretty much fine otherwise with the Oh, right, and then Vantage doesn't have its keyword, but it's kind of awkward to put custom mechanics in, and the actual captured forge hasn't been updated with Vantage yet. Well, obviously it's supposed to be structure support with the Aximovs. It's just kind of pricey for what it does. 4 energy to put those in play. Yes, they can use the ability immediately for free, but ironically, this would probably be better in Iron Warriors because of the free Vantage, active abilities. Which would make sense given that it's, Kamba Diaz and his bromance with Barabas Antioch. Yeah, it's fine. It's just a little weak, probably. I'd maybe put it to 3. I don't know. It'd kind of be Runaway if it was 3 energy as well. But then all Imperial Fist design is like that, so it's not like you're doing anything.
It's actually funny how often we find Imperial Fist and Iron Warrior cards that would work so well in the opposite faction. And yeah, the whole Pollux and Barbas Antioch friendship does always justify the thing here.
Oh wait, no. Oh, I'm in my Kamba Diaz, not Pollux. What am I thinking? Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
I was thinking that doesn't sound right, but at least that makes more sense now because Kamba Diaz working with structures.
Yeah. Oh, you said Kamba Diaz. Oh, okay,
I did. I was thinking Pollux, but I said Diaz, and it is Diaz.
Oh, I missed that actually.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's fine. What do you think?
I think it's interesting in a sense that it gives some support to now weakened Kamba Diaz. Now, Kamba Diaz,
no one likes Kamba Diaz.
Yeah, I don't like Kamba Diaz. It was one of the most terrible designs in the game, like one of the worst warlords in general to fight against. Always very annoying. But I also like the idea, but maybe you could rank the cost down to 3, but then 3 cost 2/6 basically, and 4 HP. Rally, give 4 HP to a structure. Yeah, it's still not that good, right? I think what you could do with this is maybe you could have it as a nuke, and you could give it a condition that if it destroys the target, you summon 1 Aximov squad and give advantage. In that case, it would be interesting, because if it's also a nuke and summons 2 Aximovs, it might be a little too much. So that could be a thing, honestly. You could play on Diaz, and let's say when somebody drops a unit, you play one of your turrets, and you play this, and you basically also get to buff the turret. So yeah, there's potential there for sure.
What if it had a pseudo murder effect, so you'd summon a number of Aximov supports equal to the overkill?
That could also be pretty good, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty good. All right. Pretty good. Interesting for sure. Interesting, no doubt.
And another meme for you next.
Oh my god, I always get to present the memes. Okay, so so this is from Ozzy, and the biggest dickus, and the description is also biggest dickus, and it's 7 energy. And it adds, there's a golden emperor statue on top of it apparently, and we got add 10 random legacy traps in the enemy deck. When the opponent draws a legacy trap, give sentinel to the enemy warlord until their next turn. Jesus Christ. So it's actually memey as it is. There's one interesting interaction that I really like, that you're essentially giving your opponent traps, but when they're getting the traps, they're also getting sentinel, which is a good counter to trap Alpha Legion. Like the previous Alpha Legion, the legacy one that played for traps, was really bad against Custodes, because Custodes would just drop sentinel units, and you just had to then force them somehow to draw cards. Otherwise, they wouldn't really be drawing the thing. So it's like a drawback, I guess, which I really do like. I guess this is still meant to obviously be a meme. I mean, biggest dickus. But
It's a shame, yeah, because the name, like those mechanics are actually quite cool. Yeah,
I really like the
enjoy that
mechanics.
card.
That's the thing. Plus, I like that it's
Yeah.
the legacy trap. So it's interesting because we don't really have like this. How should I put this? I think we don't like this crossover when you can actually get legacy stuff. There was one card I think that gets you a legacy card. I don't remember what it is, but in general, it would be an interesting interaction for sure. And I like how it's counterbalanced with the Sentinel. I think Ozzy actually hit a pretty good card here. Mimified it, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, again, I like the design. It feels like, you know what this reminds me of. This would represent the palace infiltration by the Alpha Legion during the siege really well, because of combining the legacy traps and the Sentinel, because they snuck in under the custodians' noses. It would be really cool. But yeah, it's a joke, which is fine. But biggest dickers.
All right, so next one's yours, and it's from Raziel.
Ah, right. It's from Raziel, is it? Okay. Air support, 3 energy, Imperial Army air tactic. It is a common. And it says deal 1 damage. If the target dies, put in play a dogfighter. And a dogfighter is a 3/3 vehicle with unstoppable. So in this case, looks to be a Thunderhawk gunship. This is Las Rifle section. This is slightly worse Las Rifle section.
Yeah,
I mean,
kinda.
yes, the creature it makes is better, obviously. Well, actually, no, because vehicle's kind of a downgrade, but unstoppable is also a slight upgrade. So we'll put it on parity. But the fact that it only summons it if what you shoot dies, yeah, that's quite the downgrade, man. Honestly, I'd say make it 2 damage. Then it's probably fine. Still undercosted, overcosted burn. Sorry, but if you can make it actually function, it becomes a clunkier but better las rifle section, because you have to use it to kill something, or you lose like the vast majority of the value.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. First of all, it's pretty cool. But yeah, you want to make it a little bit stronger. I get that this is a common, but once again, whenever we speak about it, I also sometimes like to bring up some commons that are really good. We especially have a funny case in Warpforge where there's a common card for Necrons that is like better than some legendary cards. So like imagine this. So it's a 3 energy, 3/4 Vanguard. So with a special ability as well for Necrons that you can resurrect them when they die. So like it's a common, right? So yeah,
I always ascribe to MTG's old design philosophy: rarity and it doesn't equal power level, it equals the complexity of the card. All cards should be balanced against each other so that you don't get this like microtransaction pay to win nonsense.
But yeah, I think there's a potential there. If you crank up the damage to 2, then you got a pretty good card. Yep. All right, so next card is from another friend of mine, again a George. So we actually have, Shad, we also have this joke in Georgia because George is like one of the most common names here. So George from Georgia, basically. So yeah, you'll find a lot of Georges when it comes to Georgia. So yeah, and he made the Eisenstein. How do we actually pronounce it? Is it Eisenstein or Eisenstein? How do we usually call it?
In the Anglosphere, we just say Stein because we don't say English. We don't say foreign words properly. So.
Fair enough. So Eisenstein it is. So it's a 4 energy version. So it has the endurance art, obviously, because like there's actually funny enough, there's very few arts of the Eisenstein available, which really kind of bugs me because it's like one of the most important ships ever. But anyway, so choose a friendly unit. It gains invulnerable until your next turn and 0+2. Draw a card. So for 4 energy, you're getting you're basically getting the chosen of the 4 of the Sons of Horus that cost 2 energy. On top of that, you also gain 2 health. And you also draw a card. So you're actually paying 2 more energy for 2 health and a card draw. So we could actually treat this as 2 energy, gain 2 health, draw a card. Yeah, it's a whatchamacallit, epic though, so you can have 2 here, so 2 invulnerable turns for that card, which can be pretty damn scary, to be honest, because I can imagine how annoying it might be to deal with Mortarion that can go invulnerable for 2 turns. Pretty flexible and strong card. I think this could even be a legendary. What do you think?
Mechanically, it's balanced. Yeah, it's about comparable to a lot of others. I just don't like the flavor. I don't think it's a very good representation of the Eisenstein. As for a start, you can immediately swing with the troop that you, or well, the units, because you can give it to the warlord as well, invulnerable. So that doesn't really seem very fitting for a ship that's famous for its escape. That he just immediately goes full aggro and full bore, runs at someone screaming and starts hacking them to pieces. Yeah, it's just not a very good like running away themed tactic. It's more like I am indestructible, come at me, bro, kind of tactic.
That's one of the funny things in these card games, because I think the idea behind it was that it was supposed to be a defensive card with the health and invulnerable, but that's actually the
Precisely.
funny thing in like Horus Heresy Legions, that some of these cards actually act as offense cards rather than defense cards. Like it's crazy how it can actually happen, because like when you look at it at first, you're gonna say, oh yeah, it's a defensive card, it represents how it survived the onslaught of first Terminus Est, then getting into the void and so on, which makes a lot of sense, but a lot of people are gonna use this in an offensive way too, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, exactly, and it can do massive value trades as well. So yeah, it's a cool card. I think it is balanced, because if you compare it to like the Custodes one with the precog, which does basically the same thing. It's more expensive, but gets a little more value for a little less healing. Like that, it's fine. It's about fun. It's about right. It's not busted like Avatar of the Four is, because that card is just stupid.
Yeah, it's
But it's not good flavor.
All right. So, and by the way, what's funny thing? Like, we have the Avatar of the Four for Ultramarines in Warforged. Exactly the same card.
Oh god, really?
But it's called like Humanity Shield. It's the same card, literally the same card.
No
escaping.
This is why I don't play Warforged.
No escaping that, Shad. Okay, Shad. Next one's yours. It's another Lance of Heaven, surprisingly, and it's from Unta.
All right, so it's a 5 energy legendary, fitting for the flagship of Jubal Khan. And it says, return to your hand all friendly White Scars troops. Streak. It costs 0. I assume it means they cost 0, but that's a minor quibble. The only problem I see with this is that this is going to be absolute combo cancer. Like, you're not going to do anything else with it.
King Ha moment.
Yeah, I think so. I don't. It's decent. It's fits as well, because Jubal Khan, that's kind of his lore. Getting in, getting out. It's very White Scarsy. But yeah, I this is one of those cards that's technically fine in a vacuum, but it's the only time it'll ever be used will be to do some disgusting OTK combo. Which is a shame, because a lot of White Scars design boils down to that. They're very hard to design for, I've found.
Does Unta own this model? Because this is like...
it's very nice looking.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I wonder if he actually has this model, because it seems like he actually took a picture of it. I don't know. Anyway,
it looks too professional. That's my theory, though. Unless he's a really good painter, because they do exist, but it looks really nicely done. Like far too nicely done for any of us schlubs.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. In any case, yeah, I think it's like in terms of balance, it's definitely fine. It's a little bit toxic because it encourages the whole King Ha thing, but I'm sure there are two kinds of people. There are the people who miss the old King Ha, and then there are the people who despise the old King Ha. So it really depends on which one Unta is in this case, right? And it depends on which one the viewer is. Now, I definitely don't miss it, because all White Scars have a terrible history. In Legions, White Scars always range from being stupidly broken to being useless. Like Khan has been super broken and useless. King Ha has been super OP and useless, and Jiangsai also has been super OP and useless. The only one that has been rather always balanced is like Hibu Khan, and Targutai has been okay-ish.
And by balanced, you mean bad?
Yeah, by balanced I mean bad, because you know what I mean, right? So something that that doesn't bring you cancer, basically.
The problem is all of their flavor encourages toxic game mechanics. It's a real difficulty, because you can't go fast in this game without hitting people in the face or like removing everyone's troops all the time. It just feels terrible to play against. It's just awful. Everything they do is toxic as fuck.
Yeah, well, I guess it does it does get into the lore of emotional damage that the Khan likes to inflict. So yeah,
that's true.
All right. So the next one, on to the next one. I believe this is me. So next one is another Pride of the Emperor. This is from the Fragile Phoenix. Once again, he's been participating a lot in our tournaments. So another Pride of the Emperor. This time it's an epic for 5 energy, Gloriana class battleship. So we already had the Pride of the Emperor, but this one, look at what it does. It's disorient all enemy units for 5 energy. So this is like the 4 energy card that they have, icons or whatever it's called, and randomly deal 2 damage or heal 2 health to each unit. So that means everybody on the battlefield, right? Now, in terms of flavor, it's absolutely like in terms of like lore wise, I'm saying it absolutely makes sense. So if we consider that this is like a this is the Pride of the Emperor from the time when the Emperor's children started to go crazy and they listened to the Maragvillia and stuff like that, and everybody went like crazy basically, and there was a shit fest. It kind of makes sense. So some people get damaged, some of them get healed. There's disorient, so it's an absolute chaotic like massacre. So in terms of lore, it makes a lot of sense. However, in terms of gameplay, I'm not too sure because it's a little too RNG-ish, because this can end up punishing you a lot, because you might get, let's say you got 5 units and the enemy has 5 units, right? You play this, you disorient them, but let's say all of them get healed while all of you get damaged. So that can happen, right? So it's a little too RNG-ish. What you could do, for example, is say disorient all enemy units and randomly heal 2 health or deal 2 damage to an enemy for each unit disoriented. Maybe something like that could certainly make it a little more usable. It would still have RNG to fit the theme, but it would not be as terrible as this, because I would probably not use this. I would probably just use the same card that the EC have right now, which is I think 4, and simply disorients everyone, because I wouldn't want that crazy amount of RNG. What do you think?
Yeah, living icons, that's the one you're thinking of, and that's not very good either. So like this is about the same, if not worse than that. So it'll never see play. I agree. Far too RNG, far too weak. If you nerfed it down to 4 energy in its current state, it might be playable, maybe even 3. But I wouldn't want this in the game either for the same reasons you just outlined. It's just so random. Good flavor though. How would you?
Yeah,
I
nice
don't really know
art.
how you change it. Is the thing. Hmm.
It's very hard to change. I would say like the strong sides of this card is a very good flavor and thematically it's very, very good. And the art is also really awesome. Just look at that, just coming out like into real space. That like looks so cool. But other than that, yeah, it needs revamping because it's a little too toxic, you know? You only play this if you're trolling, which can be fun, but how you can only troll so much, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, it's time for the last card. So this is a late
All
entry.
yours.
It's Orbital Dominance, 3 energy Imperial Army rare tactic. It reads: enemy cards cost 1 more, and your cards cost 1 less until your next turn. Draw a card. So wonderful art here, and it's interesting with what it does, but also this is another of those cards that's fine on paper, but is almost certainly going to be used for like disgusting OTKs. The one that springs to mind for me being Thousand Suns with their Psychic Lash nonsense, because for some reason Psychic powers count as tactics. Hooray!
Oh,
But
damn, that's terrifying.
this doesn't just affect tactics. To be fair, it affects all cards, so that wouldn't have saved it even if it did function. Yeah, it's cool. I do like it. I like the flavor. It's kind of like a mid ground between the what is it? Orbital Supremacy or something. The card in the game, Void War. I don't know. There's something that prevents your opponent from playing tactics and vice versa. So I like it, but also it's busted.
Yeah, it's pretty busted because once again, you know, it always goes down to the fact that you get these gigantic legendaries that they're like crazy, but at the same time, then there's like a 3-cost card, and it's like, okay, this is busted because cheap cards that give value are always the scariest ones, you know. That's
You know how it would be easy to fix? You just say cards in your hand, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1 until your next turn, or something like that. So it would only affect the cards that are already there. So if you reflection something back, that's a new copy, won't have the discount. If you draw more 1 energy cantrips from your deck, don't have the discount. Because right now you could stuff your deck full of like Void Engagement, Arvis Lighter, Ravish City, and just cycle through the entire thing looking for an OTK combo once you played one of these.
yeah. I think I think I like it still. Like this is not
I do.
something this is not something I would say I don't want in the game. I'd love to experiment with a card like this, especially with
no,
the
no.
Thousand Suns. But
You don't want this in the game, I promise.
but that's what I was gonna say. After a little bit of experimenting, I might change my mind and say, okay, this should not have been in the game. Like, so yes. And who's this from?
be fair,
Do you remember who's this from?
Oh, little grey dog or hawk.
yeah,
I forget
yeah,
which
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
One of those. Yeah, it's fine. He sent it in right at the last minute. It's the only thing he had left available. He just talked to me about it. So, like, you know, it was a last minute entry of an old card. So he won't mind too much that we said basically it's broken as fuck. Stop it.
This is a difficult tournament. I'm already stuck in what I think is gonna. In every other ones we were like when we started judging, I was like, okay, I already know one that's gonna, but now I'm kind of stuck. One of the
I have my number one pick ready already. I know what I think should be number one.
And like I know one that could definitely make top 3 already without discussion. It's Imperator Somnium.
Yeah, that's mine. That's my top one pick as well.
But let's now, you know what? Let's
keep discussing. Let's
discuss now. Let's discuss. So Imperator Somnium, I'm just gonna say my part as well because Chad pretty much expressed why he thinks this is such a good card. I actually also like it. Like apart from the cool art and everything there, dealing 3 damage to all enemies and for each enemy put in play 1 Ares guard. Like that is like pretty cool. As Chad said, it's like very good flavor. It deals damage, and if it's not enough to clear the board, then it just drops these Ares guards to just help you out. So this is like the ultimate maneuver to defend your warlord and just clear the enemy's forces. So yeah, overall, I would say this is pretty good. Certainly a really, really nice card. Not much to say there. I think this will definitely deserve like a place in the top 3, maybe even a top spot, but we'll see about that. Okay, what are the other ones, Chad? We'll go back to the Imperator Somnium in a bit. What are the other ones that you really liked? What do you think?
Well, Spear of Truth is great. A little toxic, but the flavors and the mechanics are really interesting.
Which one was that? Spear of Truth?
I remember Astalan one.
Oh yeah, the one from Zermal. Yeah, I have to say I really like it. A little bit toxic for sure though, but certainly something I really, really, really did enjoy. That was absolutely something I liked a lot for sure. And I still have to say, you know, I'm gonna put it out there. Of course, it's a problem that it's hard to judge because it basically brings in a new faction. But I love the Craftworld Ulfway as well because of just how well it transitions into the whole lore of Craftworld Ulfway's first appearance. So I just want to put it out there that I really like that card as well.
I do get that, but it's got a lot of like uncertainty with what it's actually supposed to be doing because
the shield, right?
Yeah, it's just a little. It's got a few issues clunkily wise. It's I do get it though. It's a cool idea, and I'm not personally begrudging or downgrading it just because it's a custom faction, because it's one that does belong in the Heresy, like you said. So.
Yep, in terms of like belonging to the Heresy, it certainly does. I also have to say one that I really like is the Iron Blood. With the
I'd agree with that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
It's a really cool one for sure.
Super slow but fun, yeah.
It's fun. It's super slow. It encourages some combo setup, which is cool, and it also is going to be very funny on the Legacy 4X. Like if you were to have something like this,
you don't even need that. There's the 2 energy load card or something
with reflection.
That would do it. Yeah, 24 damage, but it's a 2-turn setup, so you know. Maybe the macro battery should have shut down. That would be my only theory, but they might be a bit crap then. Who knows?
Because I mean, if you spend 10 energy and the enemies can just keep that stun the next turn, it kind of becomes a bad card. So I think it's good as it is. Yeah, for sure. There was one other that that I really, really did enjoy, and I'm trying to remember which one. I mean, I enjoyed a few of those, but.
Was it the second Orpheus Lament? I like that one a lot.
Oh yeah, the second one. I actually enjoyed the first one too. The first one is a little bit powerful, like in terms of being too powerful. But I really like the second Orpheus Lament because the amount of lore accuracy and good flavor and different types of usages that it has, Jesus Christ, like this is like very, very on point. So yeah, I have to say this is one of my favorites as well. The other Orpheus Lament is also really good, but this one takes the cake for me as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What else is good? What is it? The first Pride of the Emperor, was it? No, the Emperor's Pride. That was interesting. I don't think the numbers are quite where they're supposed to be, but like it's a cool concept. That's one of the few times I've
Absolutely.
seen like a get free thing while in hand card that wasn't utterly busted. So,
What about the Velatio Nex?
which one? Sorry.
The capital ship that has SpongeBob on it.
Oh, right, the Fallacia. Yeah, right. I thought you said Fidelus Rex then and just fucked up the pronunciation.
I mean, there's always that one meme card that makes me laugh a lot. We should totally make a shitlord tournament, like.
Oh, okay, but only one when we get to like April Fools or something.
Totally, we should make it.
That's gonna get out of hand otherwise.
Yeah, I can already imagine the stuff that people are gonna make is gonna be crazy.
Yeah. I also quite liked Vengeful Spirit. That's all right, but it's got a few issues as well. Phobos Encoder was surprisingly balanced after my first initial horrified look at it. That's up there.
Phobos Encoder is super interesting because as I said, I really do like this give me something now and I'll lose something later type of card. It kind of really does it for me. I think the Lance of Heaven, the first one, had a very good potential. It's just that once again, it's a little bit too toxic because you can just keep spamming that every turn if you do it correctly. Yeah. It is the same problem as the original Angtao had, that when you just shot it and it went back into your hand, like, bro.
Oh wait, well, hang on. What? Angtao used to go back to your hand?
As I remember, I think so. I'm not too sure.
That sounds dreadful.
I remember the time when it used to draw a card and go back into your deck, but I wasn't. I actually started playing when Thousand Suns came out, but I didn't have like the cards back then. But one of my friends, I think, mentioned that it used to go back into your hand. So
yeah, I only started in Defenders of Terror, and some of the like nightmare horror stories I hear about the initial Knights release and things like that, they sound awful.
You weren't there when the Knights got released?
No.
Oh, lucky you, man. Lucky you. Yeah, because everybody was playing that Hikaru Nakamura looking warlord, and he was just using flame cannon hitting the full board, and it got reset like the last cannon. So anyway, yeah, let's go on.
Well, I think we've covered all of the really promising ones.
Let's take a look again. I don't want to miss anything.
No. There are a lot of good entries in this. This is the thing. There's not been any all of these entries have had promise in some way or another. So it really is a matter of actually picking between them all this time instead of just discarding a few out of hand.
Honestly, I like Waning Moon too. It's a little too strong though, I think. A little too strong or too it was too strong or too weak. The Thousand Suns one.
Yeah, the second Bucephelus is pretty decent as well, honestly. Although it is basically desperate defense on steroids, but I would still, it would be an enjoyable deck to build.
Surprisingly enough, we got a lot of Custodies and Word Bearers.
Yeah, that is strange considering the Custodies had such little orbital presence. But yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. I like the cards that we got.
Yeah, honestly speaking, I like the Fidelus Lex as well. I just think that it needs some tweaks. The Ultio was also pretty nice, honestly. The legendary one with the thing that just creates Assassinorum operatives. That could also be pretty interesting. There's a lot of good cards, but okay, you know what? Let's start from the beginning. So number one pick for you.
Imperator Somnium, no contest.
You know what? I either would go for Imperator Somnium or Orpheus Lament. I'm just not sure which one takes number one for me. You know what? I would go for Imperator Somnium, and I'll say why. Overall, I'm more impressed in terms of Orpheus Lament, but there's a thing that Orpheus Lament does have some ways that it can be pretty toxic in certain situations, right? Which is not necessarily bad because, you know, you can get some cool stuff out of there. Can do some cool combos, but since it's a reflection, like
It's also
imagine
heavily RNG
yeah,
as
you
well.
can.
Like
That's what I'm saying. Like you can get very
Yeah.
lucky, and the first time you cast it, your warlord gains permanent ward, right? And like
Yeah.
sometimes
Or you can
it
get
be-
flank.
you get flank on your warlord. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah, there
But
are
yeah.
some things that just maybe knock it down slightly for me. So I would say the number one is definitely Imperator Somnium. Do we agree
Right,
on
so for
that?
the number two, yes, absolutely. So for the number two slot, you want to consider Orpheus Lament?
I'll
That's
tell you in a second. Let's first
Yeah.
remember who's the author of the Imperator Somnium. It's ZMK Gaming, and in the game he's known as ZMKG. Okay, ZMKG, congratulations, because your card is number one. For number two, I'm going to go between two cards, okay? It's gonna be either Orpheus Lament for me. Actually, maybe three cards. Orpheus Lament, the Iron Blood, and I'm not sure about there's a couple that I like for number three. Okay, you know what? Let's discuss that on number three. So Orpheus Lament or Iron Blood. Shad, what do you think? I would
Well,
say
I think
like both are really good.
I think Spear of Truth is in contention as well. But yes, those
That's what I
three
wanted to
are-
say. I was like
Yeah, you were
more
thinking about it.
that
It's
was
a little
number
strong,
three.
isn't it?
It's a little strong to be number two for me, but for number three spot, I'm certainly
All right.
considering that.
So yeah, I agree with that then. Okay, so Spear of Truth still in contention for third, but not second. Okay, so second is between Orpheus Lament and Iron Blood. Honestly, I think given how much you've laid out the RNG elements, I think Orpheus Lament gets bumped down again. So I would probably go with Iron Blood. I do like Orpheus Lament, but it's word bearer mechanics, man. What? Why are they so random? But yeah, it's just difficult to design for them again, just like White Scars. Actually, you know what? They're in the same expansion, aren't they? That whole expansion was Tire Fire. I don't like the Ultramarines. I don't like the Word Bearers. I don't like the. Oh no, the different expansions, aren't they? Never mind. Ignore me.
Yeah, well, I mean, White Scars was not from a good one either because we got
Nah.
Kabanda there, and probably you weren't there when Kabanda came out. You should have seen how funny it was playing against.
He was just like base 3 power, wasn't he?
The problem with
No?
Kabanda back then was that Eternal Rivalry gave Bloodthirst, and on top of that, they had the Seekers of Slanesh with Fast. So it was not fun.
Oof. Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so number two, it's between either. So I think I'd put my vote to Iron Blood in this case. Do you agree? Disagree?
I was thinking as well to be fair because even though I love Orpheus Lament is like one of my favorites for sure from this tournament.
Flavor success, absolutely.
Yeah, but Iron Blood is just so perturbable. Like, oh, you mean you're still not dead yet? Okay, take this. So like, and I like the macro battery idea. I like them playing something that can really tell you, okay, you gotta finish the game now, or you're just losing the game, right? And on top of that, like maybe you could do some funny stuff like play tactic reducing stuff and things like that, and you could just play this for maybe 9 energy, or you could play drilling sites and play this for 8 energy. In any case, like there are some ways you could ramp up and use this sooner. But in general, yeah, I like it, and it's a real threat. It's a little bit too slow though, obviously, because like there are some other 10 cost crazy things like Hexagrammaton, right? Like Hexagrammaton is just very, very powerful.
I think Siege Mastery as well might allow you to get this out because Siege Mastery is any card, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's kind of busted. But then that's a problem with Siege Mastery, not with. Maybe tone the damage down a little bit on Iron Blood would be my thought, but otherwise, yeah, I like it. It's cool.
Yeah, like when it comes to the Siege Master, that's like number one thing that I actually thought about.
Everything.
Yeah, like I instantly thought about that Siege Mastery because it's like it's basically a thing that it kind of breaks everything in. I think you meant Master of Warfare. Not Siege Mastery.
No. Siege Mastery is the one that gave the Iron Warriors. They have a 30 damage out of hand combo right now because of Siege Mastery.
Oh, which card is Siege Mastery again? I think I missed that.
The 8 energy. Your next card costs 0. Put 2 barricades in play.
Oh yeah, the Siege Master. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the old card. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from the old expansion.
Yeah, and well, in any case, like honestly speaking, yeah, I still think this card can get number 2 for me.
Yeah, I'd go with that then. Yeah, I'm Blood in 2. So, number 3 is between Orpheus Lament and Spear of Truth then?
I would say Orpheus Lament, Spear of Truth, maybe.
There's a lot of other good choices too. They're just not quite up there, are they? It's like this is a very close one. You are right.
Yeah, it is.
There's stuff like Vengeful Spirit, Pride, Emperor's Pride, Phobos Encoder, even Craftworld. Although I have one issue.
Yeah, Lost Hope is a little too toxic, but I do like it.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in it.
The Pride of the Emperor too, the old one, the Emperor's Pride, the 6-cost one, is also pretty
yeah, I like that one. Absolutely.
Like there's a lot of good ones for sure. Okay, so let's first start discussing between Orpheus Lament and Spear of Truth for starters. Now let's compare a couple of things there, right? Flavor-wise, both are really good because they're really similar in a sense that they both reflect the characters that they're associated with Spear of Truth being Astalon and Orpheus Lament being Argeltal. So they both reflect that really well. Both of them have a busted element to it. One thing that gives Orpheus Lament edge for me is that there's like so many interesting combos and stuff you can play with it. One thing that may give Spear of Truth once again like edge is that, you know, simple and effective is always a really nice thing. Simplicity is usually pretty has the charm of its own. I'm not sure. How would you compare them, Shad, as well? I'm still thinking.
Again, it really comes down to the heavy RNG factor of Orpheus Lament versus the fact that its Spear of Truth is, well, kind of undercosted, so the balance is a bit off, and also it's just quite toxic. So it does fit perfectly. And to be fair, Defenders of Caliban are a toxic faction, so it's good flavor there as well. But they're both downsides.
Do they need more toxicity,
just which one? It's just which one, yeah, exactly. I'm almost tempted to go for a third. I'm almost tempted to switch my vote to Pride of the Emperor, or the Emperor's Pride, sorry, the 6 energy one.
That's also that's what I'm saying. We started from these two, but the Emperor's Pride is also pretty interesting. I like the flavor on that one for sure. Oh, this is a hard one. Yeah. Because at the same time, the Orpheus Lament is so well done in terms of lore that
it's like, so random.
Yeah, we got a problem. Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe
I suppose theoretically you can get 6 triggers of it though, and since you can't get the same demon host twice, you will eventually get. That feels so bad though, knowing that you're going to get flank eventually on your warlord before you can start getting the actual buffs.
Hard one. Yeah, because if you could get like the best things that you could get is definitely Survivor and Ward. Those two are the best ones for the warlord, I guess.
I'm gonna have to go with Spear of Truth. I can't give it. Pride of Emperor's Pride is good too, but it doesn't have as like solid flavoring as Spear of Truth. That'll be my vote.
So Spear of Truth. Yeah. Hard one. I think in this case we're kind of stuck, Shad, because I'm kind of going with Orpheus Lament, so we need to somehow discuss. So this is the first time when we have to go into a debate on this.
All right. I'm down. I
think this we should do this in the sense of points. So let's discuss it like this: the flavor. I'll tell you how we're gonna do this. Let me also create my document here. So flavor. Then we will say. Balance, then toxicity. So let's say less toxic.
And design as well, because balance and design aren't always the same thing.
RNG factor. And let's do flavor and design there. And
you rolling art into flavor?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I think so. It's relatively minor.
So let's
take
these 5 points. And of course, let's also say let's also say where would you roll the factor of how much it encourages new type of play or something?
That would go in design.
Design, yeah, totally. Okay, then let's start from the flavor. So, Shad, what do you think about the flavor?
Oh, they're both very good, but Orpheo's Lament edges it out slightly, I would say, since it encapsulates the journey so well.
Yeah, they have similarly good flavor, but I would say Orfeo definitely goes there in terms of flavor. What about design? For design, I would actually, even though I like so many combos and different playstyles that Orfeo actually brings in, but then again, look at that. The Spear of Truth really does go in terms of design, goes right into the Caliban playstyle. To be fair, it doesn't really offer anything new, but it does fit right in with the Defenders of Caliban style. What do you think?
Well, this is design, so the spear is a better design, kind of less random, but also it's more toxic, so the balance there.
I think we'll talk about toxicity in
Yeah,
separately
it's a
because we
separate
have
thing.
that.
I would give it to spear then because Orfeo just has too many random factors that wildly skew how impactful the card is.
Okay, so now let's talk about balance.
Well, Orpheo's
Neither of
Lament
them
takes
are
it
pretty
there,
balanced,
obviously.
but Orfeo takes it there because the spear is a little bit too much.
Oh yeah, that should be a 7E card.
Yeah, so which is less toxic?
Orpheo's.
Yeah, that is true. However, the next point goes into RNG and goes to the spear. For
Yes.
sure.
So what's that? That's 3-2 in favor of Orpheo's, isn't it?
Maybe we can add one more thing.
I don't know. We set out the parameters and we judged
Fair
them
enough.
fairly.
Fair enough. I think that's
He's
where
a good scientist doesn't change his results afterwards to try
That
and
is
get
very
what he
true.
wants. Yeah.
So in this case, I take the edge this time, Shot. So
I'm flying to Georgia. We're gonna have to fist fight over this one. Right.
next time settle with the Makora. Okay, so sorry Zermal, your card is also super amazing, but this time we'll edge a little bit and give it to Orfeo. I believe so. So Imperator Somnium, Iron Blood, and Orfeo's Lament.
Yeah, congratulations to all our winners. I don't have the list. Who are the names of the people that made all of those?
I'll tell you who they are. So Imperator Somnium, as we said, it belonged to has a little ZMKG.
Right. First place.
The Iron Blood belongs to Hugo. And I'm not sure about his in-game name. I'll have to ask him later. And number 3 with Orpheo's Lament, I believe this was wait. There's 2 Orpheos. Let's not mess it up. The second
that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it?
I know, right? The second one was from Hypnomarine. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. Well done, all you guys.
Absolutely, gentlemen. This was very impressive. I have to say I enjoyed this one a lot because there were very, very good cards and overall pretty hard decision to make. I think this was a pretty good thing overall. And we're of course going to have the next tournament as well. We're going to set that up and maybe maximum tomorrow or today as well. We're going to announce the rules for the next tourney. And yes, we'll of course now contact EG to tell them to send you the rewards for the winners, but I'll first need to confirm your in-game names. So I'll need to confirm Hugo's in-game name, so I'm going to text them on that. So yeah, well, thank you very much once again, gentlemen, and we'll see you in the next one.